Hi, this is Lorraine, and I'm doing another video. If you will give me just a minute to clear center and balance my energy, and we'll get started. Okay, so this week has been really the opposite of the previous week. Where last week I was like, there wasn't a lot of information coming in, just mostly telepathic communication. This week was not that. This week was synchronicities happening constantly, and also telepathic communications. So it was really overwhelming on so many levels, because nothing is ever just that thing. That message is never just the message. There's always multiple layers to every message, multiple meanings. And the best metaphor I can give you is when I was studying literature in college, my undergraduate, and I went up to my professor and I said, I don't interpret these poems the way everybody else does. And I felt like I was doing something wrong. And she's like, well, Dr. Reineck, that was my professor, she said, there are 3 academically accepted interpretations for every line of poetry that we were reading in this class. She goes, but truly, there are as many interpretations for each line of poetry as there are people who have read it. Because the best poets will not assign meaning to any poem. It's not about what they are trying to convey or what inspired them even. It's more what you get out of it when you read the poem and when you interpret that poem. What is the message you receive? She goes, the best poets will never tell you what a poem means, because it's not what it means to them, it's what it means to you. Okay? So when I get messages, there are multiple meanings, there are multiple interpretations for every message I get. And so I have to, because of my training in literature, which there are no coincidences, only synchronicities, I have to look at every angle and discern for myself what this means for me, okay, and what the message is I am to convey. So this week I had a lot of messages come through, and they were some were inspired by last week, and actually it started by the message from last week, and that was the Revelation 10:7 quote, Bible chapter and verse. And so this week started with me thinking, I really need to look at beyond just the 10:7, Revelation 10:7, and I wanted to read more about Revelation 10:8, because when I was watching the video, I was like, it did not escape me, the quote that said, go take the small scroll that lies open in the hand of the angel standing on the sea and on the land. And so I was like, well, phones would be a modern day scroll, right? And it's a little one. So I'm like, I have to, that connection I made in reading, when I was reading it, made me want to explore Revelation 10:7 more. And so I went to the next verse. And so 10:8 says, then the voice that I had heard from heaven spoke to me again, saying, go take the small scroll that lies open in the hand of the angel standing on the sea and on the land. Revelation 10:9 says, and I went to the angel and said, give me the small scroll, take it and eat it. He said, it will make your stomach bitter, but in your mouth it will be as sweet as honey. And then, of course, I love these Bible study websites. So I go into this the interpretations and the commentaries that they have to help just inspire me, but also to reinforce what I'm feeling intuitively. And it says the image of eating the scroll, is derived from the Old Testament. We meet with it in Ezekiel 3, chapter 3, verse 1 through 3, and Jeremiah chapter 15, verse 16. And so I'm just going to read this also. The eating of the scroll or roll, or the words of the roll, is the complete mastery of the contents of the book. The digesting, as we say, its meaning, till the principles and truths are thoroughly familiar and loved. All my words so run, that I shall speak unto thee, received in thine heart and hear with thine ears. The words have I hid within my heart. He made himself so familiar with them that they were no longer a code of laws, but a constant instinct, a second nature to him. Thus, preeminently should he be familiar with his master's words and heart, saturated with his master's principles, who is to be a witness and a prophet for his Lord. He who would carry God's words to another must first be impressed and penetrated with them himself. He must not only hear, read, mark, and learn, but also inwardly digest them. And so in other words, it's not just about hearing these words. It's not just about speaking these words. It's not about just reading these words. It's about embodying these words and living these words in your life every day, living by example, the words and the teachings of our divine creator. And I always have said to myself, the Bible and any religious text, I take the best parts of it. Any part that is used as a way to ostracize, insult, belittle anybody is rooted in darkness. That has happened through the interpretation, man's hand in these religious texts. That's the way I look at it. The beauty in the Bible that just emanates love and compassion, acceptance, tolerance, those best, most beautiful parts of these religious texts, that is of the divine. And so I embrace those, and I shun anything that is not founded in unconditional love and acceptance of others. And so I believe when we digest, eat the scroll, the roll, that is what we're doing. We are embodying the spirit of those words, of the beauty that is being expressed in those words from our divine creator. God, divinity, however you want to refer to the creator of all things. And then as I read, there's always these cross-references that happen on these Bible study sites, which I enjoy, because if I had to seek them out for myself, it would be quite time-consuming. And then there's Jeremiah's woe, which is Jeremiah 15:16 is referred to as Jeremiah's woe. You understand, O Lord, remember me and attend to me. Avenge me against my persecutors. In your patience, do not take me away. Know that I endure reproach for your honor. Your words were found and I ate them. Your words became my joy and my heart's delight. For I bear your name, O Lord, God of hosts. I never sat with the band of revelers, nor did I celebrate with them. Because your hand was on me, I sat alone, for you have filled me with indignation. And so, as I read this, there's numerous messages that are coming on many levels, but there's two that I want to note. One, Jeremiah means exalted by Yahweh, elevated by God. And two, this quote, this Bible verse, chapter and verse, is very indicative of something that I said to a friend of mine about 5 or 6 years ago. Kind of upset me a little bit. And I'm not going to go into that whole study or that whole story. I've known him since I was 13 years old. But what it says to me is what I said to him. And it was a discussion about leading people. He had said his wife had never led anybody anywhere, and he was being pretty insulting. And so me being the person I am, it kind of pissed me off. And I said to him, you know what? I have never led anybody anywhere. I have also never followed anybody anywhere. But you are welcome to walk beside me. And he looked at me like I had three heads. But that's the God's honest truth. I have never led anybody anywhere. I have no desire to lead anybody anywhere. You need to find your own path. I need to find my own path. I'm constantly walking down different paths, and mostly the path less traveled. I'm always on the one nobody wants to go on, because that's the most adventurous one. That's the one that is the most intriguing to me. Why do I want to do what other people have already done before? I want to go do new, different things and experience life in a new way from different perspectives. I don't want anybody to follow me, because this is who I am. This is how I was created. This is what I'm meant to be. So I do that. And I don't want you to feel like you need to follow me. You follow whatever path you want. And you be the person you want to be. That is the most important thing you can do. I'll be the person I want to be and who I'm meant to be. I will honor and respect those around me, but it's important for me to be who I am. And you do the same. I also am not going to follow you because your path is not my path. Whatever you're doing isn't meant for me, it's meant for you. So I need to honor myself by doing what resonates most with me. And with that, I do some pretty interesting things sometimes, some pretty boring things sometimes. But if anybody who's open to walking that path with me, not following me, I am happy to have them come with me. But also knowing that I'm going to do what I want to do, when I want to do it, where I want to do it. And you're welcome to come with me, and you're welcome to deviate from my path and go a different way. But this is part of honoring my path and my purpose in this life. And I've been doing this my whole life, but I never really articulated it until about 5 or 6 years ago. And as I'm reading through these Bible quotes and chapter and verse, I'm being reinforced. So this part, it is making a connection to the 10:7, Revelation 10:7 and 10:8, and then it is also connecting me to who I am. And that's very meaningful for me. That's very powerful. So these are all synchronicities that are being placed before me. And I think it's important to note that these synchronicities are happening more rapidly, in rapid succession. Let's just put it that way, just constantly. If you allow them to happen, if you don't rationalize everything and say, oh, there's a rational explanation, and honor the synchronicity, you have a path of breadcrumbs that are just lined up in a straight line, guiding you on your path. And those breadcrumbs are being placed by your higher self, by the divine, that divine part of yourself that's still in the ether with God, the source, whatever. That higher self, that part of you that is still connected to the divine, but also connected to you in this life here, is guiding you, is helping you know what you're meant to do. It's not misguiding you, it's guiding you. That's why it's important to have clear, centered, balanced energy, because when those negative attachments come in, they will try to influence your interpretation of those messages from the higher self, from God, from your angels and guides. They'll try to misguide you by bastardizing those messages, or morphing them into something negative, or redirecting you off your path. That's why maintaining clear, centered, and balanced energy is so important. So when those messages come in, you can readily receive them and readily act on them. Okay? And so I'm just going to do an aside. So from Jeremiah 15:16, that took me to Delphinus constellation, which took me to Job 23:12, which took me to Halo. And I'm not even going to get into all of that, but those are 4 messages that came in Synchronicities, a whole other tangent that I was on. And let me just tell you, there were many tangents from where I'm going on this path right here today in this video. But there are so many tangents that it was incredibly overwhelming. But I do my best to honor all of them. And that's what I have my journal for. So I do my affirmations, my worries, I release and let them go. My affirmations and my gratitudes are in here, as well as my visions, dreams, messages that come in, notes from videos that I revisit to see how they may align with some of the other messages that come in. And like I said, when I'm watching videos and I take notes, so I watched that one video, who was that? Where is he? Sergeant Horton did the video that I had in the last, that I noted in the last video, and it was 1 hour and 20 minutes, and there were 2 hits that I got. And when I get those hits, they come through in like goosebumps on my skin. I also feel like warmth all over my body, like heat that's so hot that you'd think my body was on fire. Or it feels like my body's on fire, but it's not. It's just warm, 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 hot, 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 or however. And also in my stomach, I get like really warm, positive, affirmative feelings. So I know, okay, take note of that. Okay? I'm sorry I got off on that tangent, but these are all messages that come in. I have to honor those messages, and I process as much as I possibly can. But if I tried to give you or talk about every message I got this week, I'd be here all day. So I'm trying to focus on this one line from Revelation 10, chapter 10, verse 8, and the direction it took me. So from there, I am watching a movie, and on one of the instruments it says Kronos, and I'm like, okay, so we know Kronos from Greek mythology is Zeus's father, right? And so I'm bringing this up because there is there will be a cross-reference between the Bible quote and this Greek, I don't want to say Greek mythology, they don't call it mythology, they call it something else, but anyway, there's another term I came across, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. So when I saw the instrument, it got me looking up the significance and symbolism of Kronos, and I found an article on the sickle of Titan Kronos, archetypal symbol of power and progress. And again, I'll put all these articles in the description so you can look at them. These 2 on Kronos are very interesting. I enjoyed reading them thoroughly. And so I'm going to try not to read the whole article because it'll take too much time, but I think that it's important to understand like the significance. So in the Theogony, Hesiod mentions that the sickle of Kronos was fashioned out of a gray adamant by Gaia, Earth, herself, and was given as a gift to Kronos, who castrated and overthrew his father Uranus, or Uranus, taking his place as the ruler of the cosmos. But huge Earth groaned Gaia within, for she was constricted, and she devised a tricky evil stratagem. At once she created an offspring of gray adamant, and she fashioned a big sickle and showed it to her own children. So Gaia created the weapon, and she spoke, encouraging them while she grieved at her dear heart. Children of mine and of a wicked father, obey me, if you wish. We would avenge your father's evil outrage, for he was the first to devise unseemly deeds. Okay, so Uranus, or Uranus, was the first to devise unseemly deeds. And so I'm going to go to the end because we know, so Kronos killed his father, and Zeus killed his father, who was Kronos, right? And the most significant part of this article goes to time, because in the last video I did, I talked about there not being any time. There is no time. And that is where this goes from 10:7, Revelation 10:7 and 10:8 to this place. So in terms of theology, Chronos stands primarily as a symbol of the purity of space and time, and the rest of the gods are born into. For the Greeks, space has always been sacred, and this case is not any different. The space-time where the above-mentioned genealogy of gods takes place in the Greek theogony cannot be impure and polluted, as Socrates explains in Plato's dialogue Cratylus. But so the genealogy was Uranos, Kronos, and Zephyr, or Zeus. But Zeus is the offspring of some great intellect, and so he is, for Kapok signifies not child, but the purity and unblemished nature of his mind. There's discussion of the elements in this: fire, air, water, earth. The transmutation of the weapon, the sickle that was created by Gaia. And when we talk about the significance of the sickle and its use for crops and cultivating, this transformation is not only spiritual, but it is also a physical one. Its process can be summarized in the 3 acts already mentioned in relating to the planting, cultivating, and sowing of the crop. And this can also be the planting, the cultivating, and sowing of intellect, of knowledge, of wisdom. That is the synonym or the parallel that's being created. The metaphor. First comes the planting of the seeds of knowledge. Then we nurture and cultivate these seeds further. And finally, we master this knowledge and share it with the world for the benefit of all, the sowing. Philosophical death is a conditioning where the seeker finds himself, herself, egoless, reaching out with the powers of the mind towards the divine, while detached from the physical body and its needs, as much as this is possible, of course. And so you see the importance of Zeus and this clarity of mind that he represents. If we think about this cleansing, if we think about the cleansing that's represented in Revelation, and we think about the cleansing that's being represented in this genealogy of Uranus, let's just go with Uranus, Kronos, and Zeus, we see a parallel, okay? And it's an important parallel that's being made when I get these messages. It's an affirmation of the knowing of what's going on right now on this world, okay? So like in the mythology of Uranus, Kronos, and Zephyr, which symbolize 3 different states of the progressing cosmos, the weapon of power can be used as a great symbol of progress through the aforementioned 3-step reformation. So the weapon of power was the sickle, okay? And the 3-step reformation was the planting, nurturing, and the sowing of seeds. However, only when the transformation is done meaningfully, with self-honesty, and completely, will we manage to kill our former and less evolved states in our battle towards renewal and perfection. So we have the weapon of power that's used to, with the planting, the nurturing, and the sowing of seeds, which has also been used to kill the fathers, the genealogy, Uranos, Kronos, and now we have Zeus. And it's only with that killing that we can kill our former selves and start to sow new seeds. Okay, plant and sow new seeds. So this is what we're going through. We're going through a huge transition on this world. Huge. And so this is a parallel with Revelation 10:9. And I went to the angel and said, Give me the small scroll. Take it and eat it, he said. It will make your stomach bitter, but in your mouth it will be as sweet as honey. So if we are trying to hold on to old ways, if you are trying to hold on to old ways, you're not ready for transcendence. If you're looking for this world to go back to where it was, if you're calling that going back to normal, then you're not ready for transcendence. Because what is happening right now is a huge shift and a huge change that's meant to happen, an expelling of negative energy, and nothing will ever be the same again. We are looking to plant new seeds. We are looking to nurture them in a different way, and we are coming to cultivate a new way of living, a new way of thinking, a new way of being. Everything is changing. Nothing will ever be the same again. And every world transcends. We go through these phases of transcendence, cycles of change and transcendence, of learning, growing, changing, and then transcending. We all go through that. All of us, all worlds. And then we embrace this new transition, this new change, this new elevation of understanding of consciousness, which, since our consciousness creates our reality, it changes every part of the world that we live in on all levels, mind, body, and spirit. Whether it's the mind, body, and spirit of the person, the animal, the earth, the water, it changes. Everything's changing. Okay? So as we come into this place of this, where they say, it will make your stomach bitter, but your mouth will be as sweet as honey. So we are going through this change and this transition, and we are processing and chewing on this newness, this changing that's happening, which is very difficult. But it's a cycle. We're going through another cycle. So the next article I have talks about these cycles of time. But when I've said in the past, this spiritual awakening, people think of it as like, oh, this awareness and this connection to the divine, which is beautiful. And it's always wonderful when you are receiving the positive messages, the good messages, but there's also negative stuff that comes in. There's always the harshness of reality of the people who are not ready to transcend. Because as we rebirth into a new world and we put out goodness and kindness into the world and joy and happiness, and we manifest that into our lives, we will have a wonderful, beautiful experience. But those people who are holding on to that negative, that old way, the old ideas, the old ideologies, people who are holding on to words, promises, to watch them be unable to move forward and create change in their lives and release the old and welcome in the new, that is profoundly difficult for me. And I become very emotional sometimes. Sometimes I become very resistant because I want to wake up that person and say, look, just all you have to do is open yourself up to the possibilities and not be afraid. Release the fear. I can't do that, though. I can't do that for everyone. So those moments are very sobering and heartbreaking and sad. It makes me very sad. So the next article I read Chronos and Kairos, linear and numinous time concepts. And this brings up another really important thing that I feel is important for people to understand. And so within this article, the author, which I will note in the description, talks about his father, and he has the father's first and last name. His father's last name is a name that I see all the time. It's not common, but I see it all the time. And I'm like, okay, that is a synchronicity. That is something I need to take note of. So this article was something I took note of. And so his father said, or he says in the article, the Greeks had the good sense to use different words to mark distinctions in reality and in experience. And so they had 3 different words for the experience of love: eros for possessive love, philia for friendly love, and agape for sacrificial love. And so some people may say, oh, you're not disagree with how I interpret this, but eros for possessive love is this love of coveting. This is, you have to possess this thing. And what happens when you covet and when you have to possess something is it's because of the qualities that you ascribe to that thing. It's beautiful, it's shiny, it's new, it's expensive, it's on the top of a hill. So whether you're talking about a person, a car, a house, when you start ascribing certain qualities to that thing that you want to possess, that is that possessive love, and you move that love to a very base, superficial level. And so what happens is, once you have that thing, the shininess wears off, the newness wears off, the beauty fades, because there's always going to be something more beautiful. Eventually you're going to find something more beautiful. Eventually you're going to find something more shiny or more new. Eventually you're going to find a hill that's higher. So that there's that eros, and then there's philia or friendly love. So I think that's more platonic. I find that to be a more platonic type of love that you might have between family or friends, aunts and uncles or cousins, or just good friends that you've known for a lifetime. And then there is agape, which is sacrificial love. And this is the love that is the most desirable. And I've never felt it until I met a friend when I first moved to Seattle. And her name, I'm not going to say her name, but I had only been around her a couple times, but I had such an incredible amount of affection for her and appreciation for who she was as a person. And I had to say it. And so I told her how much I loved her, and I said, the depth of love I feel for you, my heart, my mind, my body, like every part of it. I'm so excited when I get to see you. I'm so excited when I get to talk to you, because I know every time I talk to you, you listen to what I say and you give me good feedback, and I do the same for you, and I honor your opinion. And there's very few people who I sit with and I listen to, because I feel like people have an agenda a lot of the time. But whenever I talk to this person, her responses to me were always very sincere and very honest and very straightforward, and they were direct, and it wasn't like she was disrespectful, but she wasn't like trying to tell me what I wanted to hear. It was always an honest opinion. And when I said that to her, I said, but it's important, and I know this might be ridiculous for me to say, but this isn't like a physical thing. This isn't like a lesbian love thing. And I know that's not, somebody might find that offensive, but I told her, I said, I feel like I have to explain this to you, because I don't want there to be any awkwardness between us that you think that I'm attracted to you. That's not what this is. This is love from my soul. This is so deep in my heart, my appreciation for who you are as a person. My love for who you are as a person, my love for the value that you bring to my life, supersedes all else. And I am so grateful that I've met you and that you're a part of my life. It's the only person I've ever said that to. The only person I've ever felt that depth of a connection with. There's 2 people, but she's the only one the only person I've said that to. And so with that love, it's okay when their lives go in a different direction, because that value was meant to be there in that moment. That was a lesson for me, to know that there are people in this world that I can feel this way about and be completely open about it with, and then love and appreciate them in the moment. Because all we have is this moment. There is no time. We have right now. All we have is right now. This concept of time is falling away. It's a construct of this world. And so that's what this article right here is about. So it started out talking about the different types of love that the Greeks kind of define or differentiate between. And then it goes on to talk about time. And so it's very important. I wanted to kind of break that idea of love down before I moved into time, and based on my experience of what I've seen in this world. So we're going to go to, I'm going to talk about Chronos. Chronos, which is where we get chronology from in English, is sequential time. Chronos is the time of clocks and calendars. It can be quantified and measured. Chronos is linear, moving inexorably out of the determinate past toward the determined future, and has no freedom. Kairos is numinous time. Kairos is a time of festivals and fantasies. It cannot be controlled or possessed. Kairos is circular, dancing back and forth, here and there, without beginning or ending, and knows no boundaries. So that is probably one of the most important components of what this transition is. We're going to start releasing this idea of chronological time. And I'm going to, so about 2 years ago, maybe 2007, maybe 3 years ago, I wrote a blog on old souls and young souls and old souls. Because everybody says, oh, I'm an old soul, and how I explained it is I talked about children. A lot of times when we see small children and they're so compassionate and kind, like they're wise beyond their years, we always say, oh, that child's an old soul. And what I discussed in this blog I wrote was that if there is no time, if there's only right now, there's no past, there's no future, there's only this moment, how can there be old and new, right? In addition, our soul is of the divine. We are a fractal, a piece of the divine source, God. Unified, we are God. Once these fractal parts, our souls, are released from these bodies and we are unified back at the source, we are all God, okay? So think about that. So these children who are evolved, let's say energetically, let's just say they're kind and compassionate and they're old souls, what they truly are is they're connected and driven from the heart center, okay? They're still connected. So an individual that is kind and compassionate, empathetic, patient, accepting, we call them old souls because we feel like they have so much wisdom. But the truth of the matter is that wisdom is a product of driving from the heart center, driving from the heart, accepting people for who they are. It's a product of unconditional love, of divine love. Excuse me. Agape, if you will, sacrificial love, accepting people for who they are, not trying to change them. That's agape, that's unconditional love, that's divine love. When you can love someone for who they are, not in spite of their traumas, but because of them, because those traumas create so much kindness and compassion and patience for others. It's a gift. That's truly a gift. If you can love someone and accept them for who they are unconditionally, that is true love. And that's what these children have that we call old souls. They have this capacity to love unconditionally. They don't see anything on the outside. They just love and hug and share unconditionally. And that's a product of driving from the heart center. That's not a product of time. That's not a product of old versus new, old soul with experiences versus new soul with less experience. This is a soul or an energy or a being that has found its way to drive from the heart center and will continue to do so. Now, in this life, we are kind of pushed away from that. We're moved away from that, right? And we start to separate from the divine. We start to separate from that part of ourselves. And then we are not quite as loving and as accepting. And so we have to work our way back to that place. We have to work towards unconditional love. We have to work towards that by releasing that negative energy, those negative experiences, those traumas, whatever those things are. We have to release them and not allow them to define us, so that we can move forward from a place, once again, of unconditional love and acceptance of the world and those around us, okay? And so when we talk about, so this is just reiterating that there truly is no time. He says this is a time of festivals and fantasies. It cannot be controlled or possessed. It's what we make of it. It's what we create. There is no time. So think about this. There is no time. There's only right now. And so when people talk about recalling past lives, I have recalled many past lives. And people who I've shared those lifetimes with. And I see them in this lifetime. Those lifetimes are not past or future. Those lifetimes are now. They're happening now. My consciousness is experiencing those lifetimes simultaneously in this moment. It's not the past. It's not the future. It's right now. And so as I elevate my vibration in this life that I'm consciously aware of and engaging you in, I'm elevating my vibration in all other lifetimes. I exact change across the universe in my experiences in this universe. This soul, this part of my soul, this fractal of the divine creator, as I elevate my vibration, I elevate my vibration in all those lifetimes, and I create change in all those lifetimes. It's not the past. Those past lives, I can still exact change in those past lifetimes. I can stop anything that's negative or undesirable from happening in those lifetimes, in this moment, as I elevate my vibration in this lifetime. My consciousness in those lifetimes can exact change in those lifetimes by elevating my vibration through my actions, my words, my experiences. It's all connected. There is no time. There is only right now. And I've spent 3 years trying to figure out how can I explain this to people in a way that they understand. And so all these synchronicities came in this week that kind of led me on this path. And as I had all this information coming in this week, I'm like, how am I going to organize it? And so I just kind of created this little outline here and tried to follow it as best I could, but allowed in my intuition to intervene and also guide me. And so I think that is the most important thing that I can share with you is the world is changing in a way, and it's changing for the positive. Nothing's going to stop it. No matter what's happening out here in the material plane, whatever you read in the news or hear in the news, it's not going to change it. We are transitioning. We are transcending this whole planet. We are at the end of a cycle. We're starting a new cycle. We've started the new cycle. Time will change. Our perception of time will change. Everything will change. Our consciousness is changing. Our perception of the world around us is changing. And the more connected we become to that higher self, that part of ourself, if we just start with our intuition, just start listening to your intuition and allowing it to help you and guide you. That's the first step on opening yourself up and accepting and letting in the change. So I'm going to sit here for a minute, see if anything else comes. So at the beginning, when I was clearing my energy, there's the beings that are flying around the earth on the discs, and they're actually very joyful. They're doing the surfing thing, when I was starting, and they're like actually even more joyful, and they're like, what did they say? We're on our way. So we're over the hump. We're over the hump. We are at starting the beginning of the new cycle. There's just this expelling that has to happen. So at one point we were moving towards so much more. This negative energy was like just coming at us, just trying to lock us down and oppress and just control, right? Just keep things where they are. They don't have control of the inner earth anymore. They never had control of the inner earth, but what they thought they had, they don't have anymore. The inner earth beings basically just said, yeah, not gonna happen. All the planets around now, these energies, that this negative polarity that has parts, some planets I guess that they've kind of taken certain parts over and had a lot of control over, that is dissipating greatly, and they do not have anywhere near the pull or the weight that they had before, and it's dissipating. All they have is the surface now. All they have is the surface of the earth. They can't go out into the galaxy. The galactic community is like, no, we're not. They're not having it. They'll be imprisoned, or whatever restraints or constraints or legal recourse that they have, they are doing, because the beings on the discs were the ones that were taking the information from the beings communicating with them telepathically from Earth to these beings on the discs. They were reporting to this galactic community, so they are aware of the crimes against humanity, and so they are holding these energies accountable. So they can't go out into space and be free. And all they have is the earth. All they have is the top of the earth, and they're fighting for it, but they're losing. Or they will not overtake Mother Earth, because Mother Earth has chosen balance and the light. And so what you'll start seeing is the people who are resisting, they will, in this country, in the United States, they will be, these negative energies will try to put them in their place. The states that are more compliant, those people will just, follow through like good, I don't want to say it, sheep, I guess. They'll just follow what they're told to do. And it's always the people who will stand up and say no and enough that will stop the flow of energy. So they'll just be like walls standing up, stopping the flow of energy. It doesn't mean that there's going to be any kind of war or anything like that, but it just has to be an energetic stop, a no, okay? And a projection of love, compassion, kindness for the divine, and for those people who are still suffering or still embracing the darkness. And I don't judge people who embrace the darkness. Sometimes I get really upset about what they're doing and how they harm people, especially children. But I surround them with love and light energy, and I ask to clear the negative energy and attachments from them, and I raise them up to the divine and ask the divine energy, angels, guides, to help them find their way back to the light. And sometimes they completely reject it, so I just ask them to take them somewhere else. And that's very often the case, that the energies that are very steeped in this negative polarity, they do not want any part of the light energy or positive polarity. So that's okay, they just go over there. So that's kind of what's happening right now on this world. And so I'll just, this one more thing I want to say, this whole planet is sitting at a 5. So in numerology, 5, the number 5 has no specific vibration, so it's constantly shifting, right? This world is constantly, it's right now, it's a constant shift. It's like moving constantly. The energy is moving constantly. There is no single vibration. And for people who have not addressed their baggage or their traumas, I know personally some of them are not going to be left behind. Some of them, they will not be incarnating in Cepheus with the negative polarity. The world that's being created right now in Cepheus is for people who are still embracing the darkness, who are not ready to transcend to this next level of consciousness. They will incarnate on Cepheus. There are some people who carry so much goodness in them, but are still so steeped in their own traumas that they can't see it. And they're not being judged for that. And these people will remain here. They will continue to incarnate on Earth. But because of this shifting vibration, they will be awakened, and they will have to face their traumas, because they have to release the fear, even if it's just fear from these traumas. They have to release it to transcend. And they will do that. They have the strength. We know they have the strength. I know they have the strength within them to move through it. It's just starting that journey is scary. I know it. I've been on it. I've walked it. It's scary. So I just want those people to understand that they're going to be pushed outside of their comfort zone, and not to be fearful, but to trust and have faith and work on centering your energy. Just work on trusting and have faith in God, the creator of all things, divinity, however you want to define that source of energy. Just trust in it. We're all going to have to shed that. We all have to shed that, the negative energy and attachments, to transcend. So just be ready. So as this world shifts and moves, some people are going to be moved out of their comfort zone, maybe more so than they would like. But it's for their benefit, just like it was for my benefit. Okay? I was getting ready to close, but I'll just say this. As I sit here, I see all these angels, traditional angelic, like Catholic looking angels with the wings. And they're playing, the lyre instruments, and they're emanating all the colors of the rainbow around the earth, and they're circling in like a halo around the earth, and they are welcoming Earth into this new level, they're opening this new door of opportunity for Earth, and they're welcoming us into this new era of existence. And they're surrounding a friend of mine, and they're telling me they're doing the same thing for this person. Healing, surrounding and supporting. Everything will be anew. All right, that's it. Thank you very much.